Hello class, welcome to a lesson on IC analysis, which is immediate constituent analysis. So under the dire circumstances of coronavirus, I'm not able to see you in person. So I decided to make some video lectures for you with PowerPoint. Hope you find it helpful and wishing you all the best for the exams which are upcoming. I start my class on IC analysis. So immediate constituent analysis or IC analysis. First of all, what we have to understand is this is not a grammar. This is actually a structuralist tool. As I have mentioned in the slide here, it is a structuralist tool. It is used for the analysis of the syntax of sentences. So in order to understand how sentences are arranged, words in a sentence or elements in a sentence are arranged, this is a tool for that. Immediate constituent analysis is actually a tool for that. So let's look at the people who worked behind formulating this tool. It was originally set forth by Bloomfield and it was provided with exegesis by Pike, like examples and explanation adakku provided the Pike aanu. And then it was fully systematized by two of these people, two of them, Rowland Wells and Zelig Harris. So these four men worked behind IC analysis: Bloomfield, Pike, Rowland Wells and Zelig Harris. So let's look at the aim of IC analysis. So what is the aim of an IC analysis? So ideally, IC analysis wants to analyze each given utterance. Now utterance എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കുറച്ച് confusing ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു item ആണ്. Utterance actually it can be a simple a word, or when I tell you something and you respond that is an utterance. That means that you received my information, you are processing it. Sometimes you might say like a full sentence, yes, I get it. That is an utterance. Sometimes you might say a couple of sentences, 3-4 sentences, a paragraph. That is also an utterance. So utterance can be short or long. It doesn't have a particular length. So നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന utterance ഏതാണെങ്കിലും അതിനെ ഏറ്റവും maximally independent sequences ആയിട്ട് analyze ചെയ്യുക until we reach the smallest meaningful units. That's morphemes. Morpheme level vare analyze ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് IC analysisന്റെ aim. So IC analysis analyzes the given utterance into maximally independent sequences until we reach the smallest meaningful units. So let's look at the principle behind IC analysis. Principle is pretty simple. It's called binary segmentation. Binary segmentation is nothing but you are given a sentence, you cut the sentence into 2 natural divisions. And each of these natural divisions are cut into 2 again. And this process is repeated until the smallest meaningful units, that is, the morphemes are reached. ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് കിട്ടുന്നു, അതിന് രണ്ടായിട്ട് കട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഈ രണ്ടായിട്ട് കട്ട് ചെയ്ത സാധനത്തിന് നമ്മൾ വീണ്ടും വീണ്ടും കട്ട് ചെയ്ത് മോർഫീംസ് എത്തുന്ന വരെ കട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നു. This is called binary segmentation and this is the principle behind IC analysis. And let's look at the components in IC analysis. Mainly I have to introduce you to 4 different components. First of all, construction. നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു യൂണിറ്റ് which can be further divided into 2 component units. അതിനെ നമ്മൾ construction എന്ന് വിളിക്കും. The constituent means any word or morpheme or construction which enters into some larger construction. അതായത് മറ്റൊരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് വേർഡ്സിൻ്റെയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് മോർഫീംസിൻ്റെയോ കൂടെ ചേർന്ന് ഒരു ലാർജർ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ ആവാൻ പ്രാപ്തിയുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യത്തിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യുവൻറ്റ് എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. ഐ ബി ഇല്ലസ്ട്രേറ്റിംഗ് ദിസ് വിത്ത് എക്സാമ്പിൾസ് ഇൻ ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡ്. ആൻഡ് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഇസ് ഇമ്മീഡിയറ്റ് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യുവൻറ്റ്. ഇമ്മീഡിയറ്റ് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യുവൻറ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നു, വി കട്ട് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻടു 2 ആൻഡ് ദീസ് 2 ആർ കോൾഡ് ദി ഇമ്മീഡിയറ്റ് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യുവൻറ്റ്സ് ഓഫ് ദാറ്റ് കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ. And finally, ultimate constituent or UC. This is IC and this is UC. From UC, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ultimate constituent എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ finally we do all the cutting and all, and finally we reach a stage in which we cannot divide the group into group further without tampering with the meaning. ആ ഒരു ലെവലിൽ നിൽക്കുന്ന യൂണിറ്റ്സിനെയാണ് we call it ultimate constituent. At this level, we cannot further divide the constituents without tampering with the meaning. Okay, let's look at this example. Poor John ran out. So, poor John ran out in the this is a construction. It can be divided into poor John and ran out. So these two are immediate constituents of this construction. Poor John ran out. And then poor John. This is again a construction because it can be further divided into poor and John. Poor and John are ICs or immediate constituents of the construction poor John. ഇനി UC എന്താണെന്ന് നോക്കാം. Poor John ran out. These are ultimate constituents because we cannot divide it further without changing the meaning. Okay, now let's look at the task of IC analysis. What is the task of IC analysis? So the task is very simple. IC analysis tries to describe what the constituents in an utterance are. So ഒരു utterance, ഒരു given utteranceന്റെ elements, constituents എന്താണ് എന്നുള്ളത് analyze ചെയ്യുക, describe ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് IC analysisന്റെ task. So it's quite simple. So now how do we determine ICs? We are given a construction. How do we know that? How do we know where to cut ICs, where to divide a construction by? നമുക്ക് 4 methods ആണ് മെയിൻ ആയിട്ടും വരുന്നത്. First is comparing samples. So this is the most basic method of determining ICs. We can compare, we can look at similar samples and how these samples have their IC cuts. For example, we get this construction, her son's school. Now we get confused. Where do we put, where do we divide IC? Her കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് കട്ട് ചെയ്യണോ or her son's കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് കട്ട് ചെയ്യണോ? So we get utterly confused. Then we look at some samples which are available. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സാമ്പിൾ നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ കിട്ടിയതാണ്, a sample is Sam's school. And Sam's school divide ചെയ്യുന്ന Sam's കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് school. So we understand that the cut has to be made after apostrophe S. So we cut it after her son's school. Okay. Second method is using suprasegmental features like stress, intonation, pitch, juncture. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കുറേ suprasegmental features ഉണ്ട്. But judging on that, we can spot where to cut the IC. Third is the freedom of occurrence. This is actually related to what we mentioned in the first point. For example, old light church എന്നൊരു കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നു. ഇത് രണ്ട് രീതിയിൽ കട്ട് ചെയ്യാം. ഓൾഡ് ലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ചുമാവാം, ഓൾഡ് ലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ചുമാവാം. Then we look at old lighthouse. Old lighthouse കട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത് old lighthouse എന്നാണ്. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ ആക്ച്വലി കട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് ഓൾഡ് ലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ച് എന്നാണ്. സോറി, യെസ്, ഓൾഡ് ലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ച് എന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ കട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. അപ്പം ലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ച് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു phrase, it doesn't occur very freely. It doesn't have freedom of occurrence. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ old light church എന്ന് കട്ട് ചെയ്തു. And that was the right, because that was the name of the church. Old light church, new light church എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന ചേർച്ചിന്റെ പേരാണ്. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ നേരത്തെ ആദ്യം ഒരു സാമ്പിളുമായിട്ട് കമ്പയർ ചെയ്തു, ഓൾഡ് ലൈറ്റ് ഹൗസ്. അതിൽ കട്ട് വരുന്ന ഓൾഡ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ്. ആ ഒരു മോഡലിൽ നമ്മൾ കട്ട് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് അതിലുള്ള പ്രോബ്ലം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ലൈറ്റ് ചേർച്ച് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന phrase, it doesn't occur freely. So we have to cut it like old light church. And fourth method of determining ICs is substitutability. It is very closely related to the first point. Again, we get this particular construction, her son's school. And we check if her sons can be substituted with some other element. First of all, we look at the son's school. Son's school എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂന്റ് വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു കാര്യമായിട്ട് സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമോ എന്ന് നോക്കി. her holy angels convent. That doesn't make any sense. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ വീണ്ടും വേറൊരു കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ ആയിട്ട് നമ്മളത് കോൺസ്റ്റന്റ് ആയിട്ട് സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചു നോക്കി. her sons എന്നുള്ളതിന് പകരം Sam's വെച്ച് സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കി and it fits Sam's school. So substitutability is the fourth method of determining IC. So these are some examples of IC analysis. I'll give you a second to look at this. So IC actually can be represented in different ways. You can use brackets, you can use boxes, you can use tree diagrams, which is the most reliable. And this is actually the best method to use represent ICs. Tree diagrams, labeled tree diagrams. Here we are labeling what each of these are: sentence, noun, verb phrase, verb, noun phrase, everything is marked here. So just quickly pause the video and look at this. Okay, let's move on to the advantages of IC analysis. There are only two advantages that IC analysis has. First of all, we are given a sentence, and using IC analysis we can understand the layers of relationship in a sentence. ആ ഒരു സെന്റൻസിനകത്തെ വേർഡ്സ് തമ്മിലുള്ള റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പ്, ഫ്രേസസ് തമ്മിലുള്ള റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പ് ഒക്കെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ. ഓൾസോ IC അനാലിസിസ് ഗ്രാഫിക്കലി ഡിസ്പ്ലേസ് ദീസ് റിലേഷൻഷിപ്സ്. So that is the first advantage. Second advantage is some kinds of ambiguities. Ambiguities means double meaning, double or more than one meaning. It can be accounted by IC analysis. Although IC analysis has only two advantages, it has 10 limitations. So that is what we are going to look at now. So first limitation is the problem of ambiguity. അപ്പം നമ്മുടെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജും ആദ്യത്തെ ലിമിറ്റേഷനും ആംബിഗ്വിറ്റി തന്നെയാണ്. ഓൾദോ IC analysis can account for some kinds of ambiguity, certain construction has still have some problem. IC cannot actually deal with these kinds of ambiguities. Before going into that, let's look at three types of ambiguities. First is lexical ambiguity. Lexical ambiguity means one word, a same word has different meanings. For example, bank. Bank can mean financial institution or the banks of rivers. So that is lexical ambiguity. Then second is constructional ambiguity. So this arises in the way certain constructions are made. For example, hunting dogs. Sorry, this is a spelling mistake. It is hunting dogs. Hunting dogs എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ it can be dogs that are used for hunting, or the act of hunting dogs. പട്ടികളെ വേട്ടയാടുന്നതുമാകാം, വേട്ടപ്പട്ടികൾ എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥത്തിലുമാകാം. So ഇവിടെ problem എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, the problem of ambiguity arises in construction. So that is called constructional ambiguity. Third is derivational ambiguity. Derivational ambiguity എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് a construction will have different meaning in different context. Depending on the situation or context in which it is uttered, the meaning changes. For example, God's love, or in Malayalam we can say Deva Sneham. God's love can mean God's love towards us and our love towards God in different circumstances. So these are the three kinds of ambiguity, and the problem with IC analysis is not all kinds of ambiguity can be explained by IC analysis. Let's move on to the next three limitations. The second limitation is the problem of discontinuity. IC analysis in the principle എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, if we are given a sentence, IC can help to cut it into two. But the only condition is the words have to be close together. For example, I give you a sentence, he is coming. You can cut that into he is coming. But the same sentence, if you make it into a question, is he coming? ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെ കട്ട് ചെയ്യും? Ideally, is and coming has to come together. Is coming എന്നുള്ളത് ചേർന്ന് വരണം, അതിന് ഇടയ്ക്കൊരു he കയറി വന്നു. So this is an example of discontinuity. And when discontinuity arises, IC cannot do anything. Third problem is the problem of embedding. Embedding means a sentence will have another sentence embedded in it. For example, the boy who won the prize is my cousin. There are two sentences in this particular sentence. The boy won the prize, he is my cousin. So IC is inadequate for analyzing this sentence, and it cannot tell us that there are actually two sentences in this particular construction. And the fourth problem is the problem of conjoining. Conjoining means you can add elements to a sentence and make it as long as possible. For example, when we consider a list, do you like beer, brandy, whiskey, or rum? So, ഈ ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് കിട്ടുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് we don't know where to cut this. Like, should we cut after beer and brandy? Should we cut after beer? Should we cut after whiskey? So we get utterly confused. So IC is inadequate to handle conjoining. And conjoining and embedding, third and fourth problems. These together are called recursion. Recursion means you can actually continuously use these two models to make a sentence infinitely long. For example, the boy who won the prize is my cousin, who is related to me by the uncle who lives in London, which is the capital city of England, who once colonized us. I'm just telling this out of hand, so bear with me. Okay, so this is recursion. 3 and 4 together, these two processes are called recursion. Let's move on to the next limitations. Fifth limitation is the problem of structural similarity. Some sentences are very similar in surface structure, but the meaning will be entirely different. For example, these two sentences, John is easy to please, John is eager to please. When we look at it, there is only one word which is different, easy and eager. But meanings are completely different. The first sentence means John is easy to please means ജോണിനെ പ്രീതിപ്പെടുത്താൻ വളരെ എളുപ്പമാണ്. സെക്കൻഡ് സെന്റൻസ് ജോണിനെ മറ്റുള്ളവരെ പ്രീതിപ്പെടുത്താൻ ഭയങ്കര താല്പര്യമാണ്. Okay, so these are two very related sentences when we look at it, but actually entirely different. And IC analysis is inadequate to show that these are actually different. And the sixth limitation is the problem of inter-sentence relationship. There are relationships between different sentences like active, passive, affirmative, negative, declarative, interrogative. And IC analysis actually fails to reveal these kinds of relationships. And seventh limitation is the problem of group genitive. Genitive actually means possessive, apostrophe S. Minus class. That is an example of genitive. So group genitive is the king of Denmark's son. That is an example. ഇവിടെ ഡെൻമാർക്കിന്റെ മകനല്ല, ഡെൻമാർക്കിലെ രാജാവിന്റെ മകനാണ്, the king of Denmark's. So this apostrophe S is applicable to this group of words, king of Denmark. So ഇങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോഴും IC analysis is inadequate to cut. നമ്മൾ കട്ട് ചെയ്ത് വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ഡെൻമാർക്ക് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ മകനായി പോകും, കിങ്ങിന്റെ മകനാവില്ല. So that is where IC is inadequate. And the final three limitations. Eighth limitation is the problem of overlapping ICs. Overlapping ICs എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് this is almost like a mathematical equation. Like he has no love of or kindness for dogs. He has എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു common, he has no എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു common element വരുന്നുണ്ട്. For dogs എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു common element വരുന്നുണ്ട്. Then there are two items, love of, kindness for. These are actually two sentences. He has no love of dogs, he has no kindness for dogs. But these two sentences are actually overlapping here. But IC cannot show their relationships. So, and moving on to the ninth problem of multiple ICs. Multiple ICs, IC analysis in the basic principle എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് binary segmentation. If we are given a construction, we have to cut it into two. But there are certain constructions which cannot be cut into two. It has to be cut into more than two portions, like boys and girls. Like we have to cut it into boys and girls. We can't cut it into boys and girls or boys and girls. അവിടെ മൂന്നായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും. So that is the problem of multiple ICs, which IC analysis is inadequate to explain. And final problem is the problem of understood elements. For example, in commands and requests, like please pass me the salt. ഇവിടെ understood ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു element ഉണ്ട്, you. Would you please pass me the salt എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ understood element ഉണ്ട്. But IC has no provision to indicate these understood elements. So that brings us to the end of IC analysis. I hope that this class was helpful for you. Please subscribe to whatever medium I am uploading this to, and all the best once again for your exams. Thank you.